You know, people are on so much these days. People play too much. People playing games. People are looking for somebody to use as a come up. And that's how a lot of women end up getting hoodwinked. So the person ends up being a liar, a womanizer, an abuser, a molester, thief. Some of these people can come into your life and really wreak havoc. Hello ladies, and welcome back to Recover and Level Up. My name is Ivory, and as you can see by the title, today's topic is he's interested in me, but I don't know if I should give him a chance. This is a question from another one of our subscribers, and if I say so myself, this is a very good question. A lot of times I won't just say women, everybody. I think men, women, whatever race you belong to or community, I think we have a tendency to just jump right in a relationship without even thinking about all that it may come with. A lot of times we just rely on our heart, we rely on our feelings or our attraction for an individual. But that's not always the smartest move, because our feelings, our attraction, our heart, while they may feel good, they're not always very reliable. So it's good to use logic. So today we will be discussing how to use logic when trying to figure out if this is a good person to deal with. In other words, if you're dealing with someone who is a good risk. As you may or may not know, in the financial world, the way that insurance companies and banks and different institutions, the way that they figure out whether or not they want to insure you or give you a loan or whatever it is, the way that they determine whether or not you're somebody that they even want to mess with is something called risk management. And this is something that I believe that we should be applying in our relationships as well. Now you say to yourself, what in the world is risk management, and what does that have to do with relationships? Risk management is a process used to evaluate and or analyze the outcome of a situation by being proactive. So now you're probably saying risk, and when we say risk, we're just talking about the probability of something bad happening. So they're probably terms you're probably not using in your everyday life, but let's just keep it simple. Okay, so I'm painting the scenario. You've met this guy, or maybe you've known him for some time. Whichever, he starts making it clear that he's interested in you. So he's calling, he's texting, he's wanting to go to dinner, he's making all these plans for you and him. And then at some point, he may even let you know, I'm interested in you, I'm pursuing you for hopefully a long-term relationship. And if things go well, you know, hopefully this can turn into something even more serious, hopefully marriage. So you like him, but you're not quite sure he's somebody that you even want to fool with. You're not quite sure if he's somebody that is a good risk. You know, people are on so much these days. People play too much. People playing games. People are looking for somebody to use as a come up. You know, you just don't know. And then when you hear the stories on the news, people's children are being molested. People are being killed. People are using people's homes as a place to set up and sell drugs. You just don't know nowadays. So that's why I said you have to use something a little bit more than just your heart or your feelings or your attraction and even your intuition. You have to use something a little bit more than that. So we're going to use a process called risk management, which I've already defined. So the first step in this management process is to identify the risk. You sit down with a piece of paper or your tablet or whatever, you write down all the risk. That means everything that could go wrong, everything that could go bad, everything that you would not want to see happen. So your list would look something like this. If I allowed him into my life or I gave him a chance, there's a chance that he could come into my life and misuse my home or misuse my children, molest my children. He could be physically, verbally, or emotionally abusive. He could have a bad financial track record and thereby pull my record down. Bad credit. He could be down on his luck and looking for somebody to use. There's a chance that he could come into my life and destroy my reputation. These are the types of things that you should put on your list. Not that we're saying that he is these things, but you have to first identify all the risk. Everything that could possibly go bad, write it down. Now that you've identified all the risk, you need to go a little bit deeper. Number 2, you want to analyze your risks. You say to yourself, how likely is it that these risks would occur? And if they did occur, what would be the consequences in my life? So you take one of the risks that you've written down or identified and you say, how likely is it that this guy is a child molester? And if he is, what would be the consequences in my life? How likely is it? Does he have other children? Does he have a track record of being a good dad? Does he have a track record of tearing through other people's lives? Another risk could be, is he a womanizer? How likely is it that he is a womanizer? And if he is, what would be the consequences if he stepped into my life with that mess? So you have to really analyze each and every risk that you've identified. You have to say, what is the likelihood that he is this? What is the likelihood that he is that? And if he is, what would be the consequences that would be all over my life? So now you have your list of risks and you've analyzed each risk. Now you want to prioritize each of those risks. I know this sounds crazy, but this is how businesses and major corporations determine whether or not, this person or this company is somebody that they want to take on or they even want to deal with. Not that it's 100%. I'm not saying if you use this process, it's a sure way to make sure you don't have any problems. It's not that at all. But we can use this model as a tool to decide whether or not we want to let somebody in our lives. So the next step in the process is to prioritize the list, or you prioritize the risks. So you prioritize it from the worst to the least. So if you have the risk of a murderer, you would put that at the top. And then you may say he's a thief. You go down the list. Maybe bad finances, maybe he's abusive, maybe he's a child molester. I don't know. Maybe you want to put that at the top of the list. I don't know. It just depends on what you think would be the worst possible risks to take on. So you prioritize your risk list. You start at the top from the worst possible thing that he could be to the minimal thing that he could be. The purpose of this step, prioritizing your list, will help you to reach possible solutions to each and every possible risk. And then you have risk reduction. In risk reduction, document the things that went wrong in your past relationships. Not just rehashing just to rehash. It gives you an opportunity to see what risks you missed in the past relationships. What is it that you put up with? How can you keep from making the same mistakes that you did last time? So you're dealing with the problem before you even reach the problem. If last time you dealt with a womanizer, or you dealt with someone who was on drugs, or you dealt with a man who just had bad finances, treating the risk will help you to be more proactive rather than just reactive. I think of situations where women, they just say, oh, I have a great guy or whatever. They didn't think about the risk. They never went through any of these processes. So they just think they just have this great guy and they start leaving the guy at home with their children. They would do things like having a different babysitter so that the man isn't left home with their children. Putting passwords on your finances, not just being so careless and leaving your money and all your business laying around. Any of those risks that you see could be a potential problem, you just avoid all of the risks. So you're aware of things. And then number 5 is risk retention. So you go ahead and you take on the risk. You say, yes, I'm going to go ahead and let this guy in my life. But you don't just, okay, we're together willy-nilly. You have to constantly monitor your risk. You have to constantly think about how are things going. You have to look at your list. Remind yourself of your list. Go back, read the risk on your list. See if are any of these things occurring? Are things still going smoothly? A lot of times we women, we have a bad habit of just getting involved with a guy. We're so exhausted from running everything ourselves. We just rest. And that's how a lot of women end up getting hoodwinked. They give this guy all the numbers to all of their accounts. They introduce the guy to all of their friends, all of their family. They just completely trust the guy. They're so exhausted from running their own lives by themselves. We just give our lives over to the man. That's how the men get the drop on these women. They know your account number. They know your children. They know your schedule. They know where your parents live. They know where your parents hide the extra key. They know what day of the year your siblings go on vacations. They know where the siblings bank. They know where the siblings take their children to daycare. The person that you're dealing with just gets to know way too much about you. And so if the person has the potential of the risks that were identified in step one, then you're giving them all of the tools that they need to go ahead and take advantage of you. So you have to constantly monitor. Don't just set your life in his hands or set your life in his lap and go on about your business. And I'm not saying be like some kind of paranoid, out of control, jealous freak. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you have to constantly be conscious of the fact that we are flawed human beings and we're dealing with flawed people. You don't know what could happen. And then lastly, you need to have a contingency plan. If I do end up facing these risks with this individual, if they let me down, they disappoint me, what will my contingency plan be? Or what is plan B? When our relationships end, most of the time we're so devastated. We're devastated because we trusted this person. We never saw any of these things coming. So the person ends up being a liar, a womanizer, an abuser, a molester, thief. Some of these people can come into your life and really wreak havoc. And then when it happens, we're devastated. We don't know what to do next because we didn't come up with a contingency plan before any of this happened. So a contingency plan would look like this. If it doesn't work out between us or we end up getting a divorce, I'm going to keep going to school. I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to keep working on me. Another part of the contingency plan is knowing how long, how much time you're going to spend or waste on an individual. So don't just allow somebody in your life and you date them for 5 or 10 years. You know, that's time wasted. Know how long you're going to give this person. You're going to dedicate yourself to this relationship. You know, say I'm going to give myself a year or 2 years. Don't allow yourself to be strung along with this person while they're figuring out what they're going to do with you. No, you're the CEO of your own life. You tell them how long you're going to stay with something. If we're not going to be together or if things aren't working out, I'm going to have to call it quits. Don't allow anybody to pin you in a relationship that goes on and on and on. The whole time, you know, you're thinking like, wow, I wanted to be married in 2 years. I wanted to be married in 3 years, but you're too afraid to say it because you thought that you would run him off. No, don't allow somebody to waste your time because time is a very, very precious resource that you cannot recover. So be smart about it. So I hope these tips help you out with deciding whether or not this person is a good person to take a chance on or take a risk with. As I said, they're not 100%. They're not, you know, the end all be all. If all these things are in order, things will work out. They're just things for you to think of before jumping into it. And they're also things that I wish that I had known before I started dating or allowing men in my life. If you found these risk management tips helpful, leave a comment below and share with someone who you think may need the information. I also made some videos titled Vetting Men that I will leave in the description below. That is all the time we have for now, but I hope you will consider subscribing to Recover and Level Up, and I will catch you next time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to ensure that you receive notifications each time I post a new video. And finally, ladies, if you would like to upgrade your self-esteem, learn how to fall in love with yourself, if you enjoy self-help quotes or level up quotes and relationship advice, you are invited to join us on all of our social media platforms at Recover and Level Up. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.